Welcome to Tech Journey Insights, the podcast where we navigate the ever-evolving world of technology, looking at switching careers and creating your own path through the world of tech. In this series, we hear from guests who have done just that, and we continue to share our own stories with you. And we explore the human side of technology and look at the new stories also shaping our digital world. So let's dive right in. So before we get to our guest, Rebecca and I are going to share what's new in our tech journey. So Rebecca, what's new in your tech journey?
Well, I have been very, very busy over the last couple of weeks because we're now getting to a point where our free 3D creation tool called FlockXR, we're starting to talk about it with a lot more people, and I've been at 6 conferences in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I'm not sure how many hours I've spent driving on the motorway, but it feels like I've been driving for a year on the motorway. But it's been really, really exciting talking to so many teachers and introducing them to it and giving them their first experience with Project Start is just amazing because they just get so excited by it and they really are ready to try it with their learners when they get back to school as well, which is really, really exciting. And we've seen our traffic increase on the site as well. So there's definitely a lot of people seeing the workshop and then going off and then trying it with their classes, and it's really, really exciting. We're at that point in time with our tool that it's, it's the build, all that hard work is starting to pay off, and we're slowly seeing those views go up and up and up, which is really, really exciting to see. How about you, Beverly? How you been getting on the last few weeks?
Again, a very busy time. And so, I've got a charity, Technology Books for Children, and you're the chair of trustees. And
Yeah,
we've been just building, because we're living in a world of tech. And we've got lots of young people out there who are not fully connecting with tech. So, of course, we merge together tech and books and, reading for pleasure around tech topics. So, and that's, what the charity is about. And with another charity, the Archives of IT, we've launched a summer reading competition challenge, and it's to
ooh,
read 6 tech theme books and also
wow,
complete screen-free activities with a tech theme during the summer
yeah,
holidays. And then, if I show you this, there's a certificate that's in black and white, but it is in color if you download it from online. So completing
yeah,
the challenge, kids will be able to download a certificate. And also there's lots of things they can fill in about the books they've read. If you go to the website Technology Books for Children, you can actually see lots of book recommendations, which the wonderful book review team have reviewed books and suggested books for a range of ages from 4 to 14. Children can read and get to grips with the world of technology without being on the iPad and the laptop and all the other gadgets. There is a different dimension to tech and understanding tech. And I've got one more to share, and then we'll get to our very special guest. And also, with my consulting hat on, I'm very excited to have launched AI across the curriculum. So AI, artificial intelligence conversations aren't just to happen in computing and computing science lessons, computer
yeah.
science lessons rather. It's across the curriculum. It's embedded in every subject, be that geography, be that sport. It's in every subject area. So I am working on this program that I've developed, AI across the curriculum. So very, very pleased to be involved with those two things, which are taking up a lot of my time, but
Yeah.
they're good for the good, for educators, for parents, for children. It's making a difference to the
Yeah,
world.
I feel like the last 3 to 4 weeks, all we've done is DM each other on LinkedIn going, "I'm so busy. I'm so busy. In a minute, I'll have some time." Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll,
yeah.
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But we've just had to, haven't we? And that's just the life of owning your own business and owning
It,
charity, being CEO of a charity and all that kind of stuff. That's just life.
it
And
is,
hopefully
but
things will. Yeah.
it's that entrepreneurial sort of put yourself out there path, and
Yeah.
if you want to do something different, you're going to have to go somewhere you've never been before, really, you know. So and there's loads of things to learn on this journey, and
Mm.
it can be exciting, it can also be scary, but we're going to talk about that. You know, we always touch on that a bit more when we come to the
Yeah.
coaching part in this Tech Journey Insights. So is it time to introduce our very special guest?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to say to you, I met our very special guest a while back, about 7 months ago, and I was really taken by her stories. So I'm going to say this. She works in the world of online safety and keeping children safe. But let's bring her in. Let's bring her in and let's continue the conversation.
Yep. Okay. So welcome everybody. This is Anna.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hi.
Hi, welcome Anna from ScreenSafe. And I'm going to start off with paraphrasing a little bit from your website, and I'm going to read it. It says, it can be overwhelming keeping children safe online. From screen time struggles to tricky topics like gaming or pornography, it's a lot to handle. And I know, Anna, that you bring your lived experience to this area. And it isn't just about, you know, it's the children, but it's also some of us as, you know, grown-ups navigating the world of tech. So, Anna, what led you to this journey?
In one word, I would say it would be, well, no, a few words, being a mum. So I am a mother myself. I've got two girls who are now 12 and 15, so year 7, year 10. So I am living and breathing this situation like thousands of parents globally in terms of how do we raise our children so that they are confident, that they've got the right critical thinking skills around tech, that they're questioning what they see, that they're not going from a place of fear, but they're also learning how to self-regulate, how to manage themselves online, whilst understanding that we didn't grow up with that. So we're learning it for many parents. They're learning it at the same time and usually not as fast as their children are learning it. So I think that's
True.
where we've got this disconnect at the moment of we've got children who don't know any different. They've been born into this world. They've already got a digital footprint by the time they're 2 weeks old because so many photos have been plastered all over Facebook.
Yeah.
And we never had that. So children we know are very tech savvy and they're learning from their peers and they're learning at school. And quite often they're already leaps ahead of where their parents are.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it came out of being a mum and my eldest daughter at the time when she was in year 6, and she got her first phone. And within 24 hours, I'd given her Snapchat. I'd set up some very basic parental controls and thought, yeah, job done. We're good. I'll just check in and read her messages every now and then. And that's why I just want to stress as well, there is absolutely no judgment here, because I know a lot of parents there's some narratives out there that can really make parents feel like you've damaged your child if you've given them a phone and it's all your fault. And I think it's this balance of there has to be accountability, and I always think that it does start and finish with parents,
Mm-hmm.
just as we do in every aspect of our children's life. It's up to us what food we put in their mouth when they're little, how we teach them all basic life skills, and we need to add online safety into one of those life skills because it is a life skill of the world they're growing up in. So no judgment. I have made plenty of mistakes. I'm sure I'll make more. My children have made plenty of mistakes and I'm sure they'll make more. But the way
Mm.
I approach it is I realized how little I knew about the online space that my daughter was then entering. And I really wanted to get up to speed from a personal point of view. So I started just learning everything myself, but then very quickly realized from seeing how her friends were behaving online and interacting and speaking to other parents that there was this huge gap of knowledge and awareness amongst parents of what they are giving to their children.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just handing over a phone, you are handing over access to the world and the world having access to your child. So that's very much what's started my journey 5 years ago into setting up Screen Safe and just thinking, right, I want to help raise awareness of this subject so that we can minimize the chance of children having these horrendous experiences, because unfortunately there are some horrific things happening online, and children are so vulnerable and such easy targets, particularly, you know, when they're young. We know children love to share, they love to tell you everything. And unfortunately the tech space can make it very, very easy for people to take advantage of that. So that was my mission of why I wanted to do it, is of raise awareness and support parents of how do we strike that balance between teaching our children, protecting our children, and doing it in an age appropriate way, and sort of drip feeding when they're ready, so that they're learning those skills. Because we don't want them to get to 18 and just think suddenly I've had no experience of anything, and then they've got to go out there and figure it all out on their own. And we also know that that would never happen anyway. They're not going to get to 18 and not have been shown something by someone else, or heard things, or got a phone that parents don't know about. So that education piece with parents, and that boils down to not just the nitty gritty of what does Snapchat do, how do you set up parental controls, Roblox, etc., but how to have the difficult conversations with our children that so many parents understandably don't want to do. They don't want to talk about pornography. They don't want to talk about predators and being groomed online. But we have to. We absolutely have to. So it's helping parents understand how and when to have those conversations in an age appropriate, non-scary way. And then also working with teachers and schools and children themselves, because I do think we need that all-round approach of including the children in these conversations, and the teachers, and supporting what teachers are facing in schools today in this space. So that's quite a long-rounded way of why I started Screen Safe, but ultimately just a real passion to protect as many children as possible, and support parents so that we get rid of this overwhelm and panic, and can actually move through this space, and make sure that children stay as safe as possible and have a healthy relationship with tech. Inevitably mistakes are going to happen, but I often say I want my girls to make mistakes whilst they're at home now, but I want to minimize the severity of those mistakes. So I don't want them to get groomed or to send any pictures or images that they're going to regret. But things will go wrong, and it's doing that within a safe environment, so that they learn how to look after themselves and how to behave in a responsible way online.
I think
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
really, really, really good. Yeah. I was going to say that my children, my son got his iPad at 4, and then my daughter got her iPad at 2. So they were very, very young, but that was a very conscious decision. This technology had come out and people were using it, and my approach was give them the technology, while I can monitor it extremely closely and have those age appropriate conversations as they grow up. So, and I think that is the thing that's really important. And it's just general good parenting advice, isn't it? Is, you know, it's not necessarily just about, you know, screens and that kind of thing. If you always have those age appropriate conversations, whether it's at the dinner table or if you're reading a story, and you can talk around that story with young people, that kind of thing, having the age appropriate conversations as you grow up, so that they always feel comfortable talking to you about things. I think that is really, really important to do. So yes, they had their tablets very young, but I was monitoring it and keeping an eye on what they were doing, so that I was always having those age appropriate conversations. And I think that has helped. I mean, they haven't had the perfect experiences on social media or with their devices or anything like that, but I do feel like they hopefully haven't had you know, horrendous experiences that they could have had if I hadn't been there at every step of the way growing up with them. I guess, you know, it does help that I'm a computer teacher. I had all the COP training and everything like that, so I knew the horror stories, you know, as a teacher. And so that helped me with my parenting. And I do think it's really, really important that we do train parents, and parents do know where to find this information out, so that they can learn about that tech. You can't give a child a device without knowing how to stay safe while using that device. So it is really, really important that we are training parents, or that information is available for them so that they can use it safely, or as safe as you can. I mean, nothing's ever 100% safe, but it's about learning to be as safe as you can. And I feel like it's a little bit like teaching your child to cross the road. Like you start, you're always, you show them, right, there's traffic coming, look left and right, wait for the brake, and you hold their hand and you cross them safely across the road. And then there's that one day where you're terrified and you don't hold their hand, right, let's figure it out, let's figure out together how to cross this road. And it's always that a bit nervous, but you've got to slowly sort of give them their own sort of ownership of what they're doing. And then eventually they're walking to school on their own, and it's terrifying, but you've taught them all the way how to be safe. It doesn't mean that they're never going to get into an accident, because accidents happen, but you've trained them every step of the way to get there. So I think it's exactly the same with online safety.
It is.
I think that's a really good point. I just wanted to, I've heard similar things of, like you say, we apply it in so many areas of parenting without thinking about it. The first time your child goes to meet a friend on their own, or particularly that year 6 to year 7 transition where they get a lot more independence, and maybe they're going to the park after school, or they're going to the shops, or into the city on their own. And we've built them up to that point to be ready to go. And it's like, right, so that you don't just go up and talk to strangers. That if that slide looks like it's about to fall apart, we don't get on it and go down, and you don't run up the slide instead of we teach all these things of how to assess where they are and their surroundings and make sensible decisions. But we've not been doing that with the online world. We've just handed children devices. Not everybody. Some situations have resulted in children just getting an adult product that has access to an adult world with no safety rails in place and no explanation, and then we wonder why bad things are happening. So it's like, it's saying it absolutely doesn't need to be that way, but we do need to step up as adults, because we're the ones giving them these devices. They're not going out and buying an iPhone or an iPad themselves at 8 years old. So it's that, again, that responsibility. The same with a bike, isn't it? You give your child a bike, you don't just put them on an adult bike with no helmet and send them down a busy road and expect them to figure it out. So good,
it's so
very
true.
valid point.
When I heard you speak, Anna, earlier in the year, and you spoke about one example, which is Snapchat, and I reflected upon my own parenting. My children, as you mentioned, slightly older. I just knew I needed to go home and apologize to especially one of my children who I knew had been using Snapchat, because I was unaware of the perils that lay for a young person. Although I'm an educator, I was a teacher at the time when my children were that age, but tech can move so quickly. That's one of the things that we need to think about and consider. So it moves so quickly, and as a parent, I'm working and I'm playing catch up. And I was a bit horrified of what I didn't know. But when I saw her at uni, she just said, "Oh, Mom, don't worry about that. It's okay. I've made it through." But there was still that. I did have a small element of parental guilt, but equally, I've seen parts of Snapchat which are interesting. So when she went to uni, they're all using Snapchat, and they can see their locations. So they knew
and
where everyone
that's
had been.
scary.
Well, is it? Because I thought, oh, wow, what a great way of keeping in touch. But that's one element. But now, I believe you can go into ghost mode and all of these different things. There's lots going on there. So is it a tool for keeping in touch? Is it a tool for tracking? Is it a tool whereby unsavory, people can sort of find out what others are doing? There's a lot going on there.
All of the above.
All of the above, yes.
I'd say it's all of the above. It's definitely the most popular platform. Definitely, again, once they leave primary school and go into year 7, nobody's on WhatsApp anymore. The vast majority of children are on Snapchat, which creates that peer pressure of I want to be on Snapchat because that's how everyone's messaging now. They don't talk to me if I'm on WhatsApp or if I haven't got this. So there's that real element of feeling left out, which again, no parent wants to think of their child being left out either. So that's one of that sort of moral issue that we all have. But you mentioned their snap maps. Yeah, snap maps is a different world to what we think of like Google Maps, where you have your little blue dot. The level of detail that snap maps can go into is what makes it a huge concern for me as a parent. I've always said to my girls, the only people who need to know and have a right to your location are me and your dad and your sister. Nobody else, because I think aside from the fact that with snap maps you can literally see down to the bricks of the building that they're in, as you touched on, Rebecca, if they're in a building, you can figure out which room is their bedroom quite quickly. Why do we need to know that level of detail? And of course, Snapchat is really popular with children, predators, drug dealers, and very few parents are on there. So whenever I do my talks and I can have 100 parents in the room, maybe one is on Snapchat. And that's why predators love it, drug dealers love it, and it's why children love it, because mum and dad haven't got a clue how it works. But the other thing with snap maps is, even if nothing sinister is happening, as in obviously people being able to follow your child and find out where they go to school and where they live, I just think it's creating this really unhealthy narrative amongst young people that they should know where their friends are at every minute of every day, and their friends should know where they are. And I just think, why is that? That's not healthy. Again, we already feel with children that they never get a chance to just switch off because their phone is always messaging them. It's like, I'm going to miss out. I need to keep up with that chat. And now we have the added thing of not only that, but your friend can see the minute you've left the house, where are you going? You didn't tell me you were going out. Why have you met up with her? You didn't say you were meeting up. And it's just creating this really toxic environment where we think it's okay to track people all the time that aren't as I say, as a parent and child, that's a different conversation. But between friends, none of my friends have my location, and I don't have any. I wouldn't dream of it. So why are we having a generation come up now, and it's creating real anxiety and arguments. And it's just, that's one of the things I don't like about Snapchat. There's many more, but that's it. I think that's one thing we need to be aware of. Snap maps of this unhealthy.
We've just sort of just touched the surface here and looked at some of the issues with the overconnected world, basically, that it's bringing about. But I want to move us on, Anna, and because the podcast is also about the tech journey, and you didn't always start off in this space. So could you take our listeners back to your tech journey and share a couple of your insights with us?
It's been quite a journey, and it's still very much a journey. I'm nowhere near the end. My background is completely different. I was in recruitment for 20 odd years. And as I say, the combined triggers for my complete shift were being a mum and seeing what was happening. And it happened to coincide with the COVID period, where I was just reflecting on a lot of things anyway. And I just thought, actually, this is something I really feel passionate about, and it genuinely worried me, and I want to make a difference. I don't want children to grow up in a world where they're just being exposed to harm, and parents are feeling completely overwhelmed and powerless. So it's been a very, very steep learning curve, and it's been a lot has just been self-taught. I think for the first 2 years, I just immersed myself in everything, of learning as much as I could, testing it myself. I'd never had Instagram before I started Screen Safe, because I knew myself I would just lose hours. I just didn't want to be looking at people's perfect dinners and holidays. And I have social media now, so even that has been a steep learning curve for me, because I'm not someone who ever enjoyed being on social media. I was very much just a voyeur in the background. And then learning the tech myself of just having a business and setting up an online business, because a lot of the stuff I do is delivering things online for parents, because then I can reach people. So it's a heck of a learning curve. And one thing I always stress to the parents is, and I am no way a tech tech genius. I've never found it easy with the tech side. So if I can do it, anybody can. And I always say to parents, the minute your child asks for any new app or game or social media, set it up yourself first as a 13-year-old, and just use it yourself for a couple of weeks at least. So if your child's begging for Snapchat or TikTok, set yourself up as a 13-year-old and just see how it works. Understand the platform, because so many parents, they don't, or they'll have Instagram and maybe even TikTok, and I've never seen pornography online, or I've never seen anything really violent. And it's like, yeah, but you're not a child. The algorithm isn't targeting you. Your friends aren't sending you the types of links that a 12-year-old will send to each other. So I think for parents, it's don't get overwhelmed by the thought of, I have to be a tech genius to cope in this space. You don't. As I say, it's an ever ongoing process, but just teaching yourself slowly what you need to know at the moment. So if it's Snapchat, just do Snapchat. Don't worry about everything else. And understand the platforms that our children are using, because that will help shape your decisions as well. But yes, it's quite the journey. It's a challenge, but a good one.
Thanks for sharing that, Anna. And just our listeners can, parents can, or educators can get hold of you. Could you share your website? What is it?
Yes, so it's www.screen-safe.co.uk. I'm on LinkedIn as my name, and I have a Instagram, which is Screen Safe Global. So please, by all means, connect, reach out. I'd love to chat to anyone who wants any ideas or tips about online safety.
That's brilliant. And also, you mentioned that you started in recruitment, and we know recruitment is one of those areas which has been changed and transformed through technology. So, we're bringing so many different sort of parts of our tech journeys together and sharing them and showing the impact of tech. I mean, I just absolutely loved your lived experiences that you've been able to share with our listeners today. And there's one more thing. You've also got a podcast. So it's almost podcast to podcast here today. So tell us a bit about your podcast also, Anna.
Yeah, so it's called the Screen Safe Podcast, and I am committing this year to getting more frequent with posting on there, because what I always try and do as well is make everything as accessible as possible to as many people. And parents are very busy, and not many parents have time to sit down and watch an hour-long video on something. So myself, I do most of my learning and things that I'm absorbing and listening to podcasts on my dog walks, in the car. And I just thought that's a great way, again, to reach more people, of just listening to these contents can spark ideas, give people quick, easy tips that they think, right, I can just make that change this weekend. Actually, I didn't realize that WhatsApp setting could be done so easily. And it's just another, I think, great way to get in front of more people, that they can fit it in around everybody's crazy lives at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, we're sort of moving into tips at the moment. We also share tips in the podcast. But one of the things Rebecca and I realized with doing the podcast is it helps you to develop your speaking organically. This is unscripted, so where you think as you go. So having a podcast brings together a lot of different skills. Behind the scenes here today, it's getting set up. We had a few technical difficulties getting set up today, so that's all part of the tech journey, and it's practice, and it's also is a phrase I've been using quite a lot: progress over perfection. So, if we make any mistakes as we go along, we keep going, because nothing is perfect, and it definitely is not about perfection. And so, you'll all share tips in a minute. I've got, as you know, I like writing, so I've got 30 tips for self-development, and it is 30 tips. And because we're talking about tech journeys today, I think tip 4, is really appropriate and applicable. It's never stop learning. Tech evolves quickly, and your ability to adapt and use tech is one of your greatest assets. And that ties in for parents also. Never stop learning. With your child, the minute they've got that device, you need to keep learning. As you said, Anna, parents need to set up the app, talk to their children, look at the updates also, I'd say, that come out, because there's so much going on. So, you need to just be on top of it, and you're not going to get it right. There's no perfection there. So in the book, there's tips, and then there are reflection points for every single tip to help you along your tech journey. So I just say that's, just bear that one in mind. Now, one of the things we do in the podcast is to discuss a topical news story, and we're going to come back to Anna for this one. Anna, you've got a story which, it's a sad story, but it's also important that we discuss these stories.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I've struggled with on my journey in this space is a lot of the work can feel very heavy at times. And I massively underestimated how much it would impact me, just seeing and hearing the things that I do in this space, because I often deal with the extremes of when things have gone really wrong. But I just recapping on what you said there, Beverly, absolutely, it's that just take action. Done is better than perfect. And I wasted so much time trying to get everything perfect. Instead of, I've shifted my mindset to now is there's parents out there that need help, that I could really help today keep their child safe online. So just get on with it, get over yourself and take that jump. But this particular news story was out last week, and unfortunately every day you don't have to go far to see something horrible in the news. But this one was of a young boy, a 12-year-old boy called Sebastian, local to me here I'm in Leeds. He was over in Castleford in Yorkshire, and he'd taken part in what's known of these online trends, usually on TikTok, of these trends. And this one is known as the blackout challenge. Which is basically encouraging people to restrict their breathing. Usually it's filmed whilst it's happening, and then the idea is that they come back round again, and this whole episode is filmed and uploaded to social media, and it's all done by peers, and then it's like, right, now it's your turn, now it's your turn. And unfortunately for this poor young boy and his family, it went wrong. As you can imagine, there's a very, very narrow margin where these things can go wrong. And he has lost his life as a result of this at just 12 years old. And his parents and family are obviously trying to raise awareness again of just the importance of not just setting some parental controls, but understanding how young people are using these platforms, understanding the content that they're seeing and being exposed to and being influenced by. And the negative stuff, the horrible stuff, always gets more likes, more shares than the positive messages. Some positive people out there on social media, but it can feel really hard to find them at times. And unfortunately, our children are seeing such content, and I don't think they've got this real grasp of how serious the consequences can be. It's just like, well, it's just a trend. Everybody's doing it. Half my year group's done it, so I'm going to do it. Without that understanding of, do you know what you're actually doing is stopping yourself breathing? How could that go wrong? What could be the consequence here? And it's the same, unfortunately, that we're seeing with self-harm in schools, in high schools, has absolutely skyrocketed lately, in the mental health, particularly of young girls. I think at the moment in secondary schools, I'm seeing, because again of what they're being exposed to, not just because of what's happening online at all, but the normalization of self-harm is almost seen as a coping mechanism, or as a, well, I'm going to do it because 3 of my friends have, and they've shared their pictures with me, and they've got loads of likes on their pictures, so I'm going to join in with that because I want that as well. So that's obviously, this is the really dark, horrible side of the online safety, but it's that reminder of why you can set every parental control in the world, but your child is still going to hear about these things because it's the world they're growing up. So
Yeah.
we have these conversations. I didn't know what self-harm or suicide was at 11 years old, but my daughter, youngest daughter in year 7, has already been exposed to both of these things in her year group. And we, as you can imagine, we have a lot of conversations, and she's still being hugely impacted by what she's hearing and seeing. And that's not online, that's in her peer group. So we have, again, like you say, we have to step up and start saying, we do need to have these conversations in the right way, of course. And it isn't something to just think, well, I'm not talking to my child about self-harm, because then they'll do it. So, but we'll be talking to them about it. So that was a really, again, unfortunately horrific case in the news last week. And hopefully by, again, raising awareness with this, we can get more parents understanding why they need to not just set some controls, but watch TikTok with your child if they're on it. What are they seeing? Who are they following?
Yeah.
Who's there? Who's influencing your child's viewpoints and ideas about the world? So yeah, sorry to bring the mood down with that one, but it's really important that we recognise that this is happening.
It is very, very important, and I don't think we can have enough conversations. That, you know, it's tricky parenting in the digital age. It's as simple as that. It's really tricky, and open conversations are what we need. You know, I'm just going to bring in something. I'm literally going to mention this when we're talking online safety. There's also something else that's happening in a digital age. We've just recently had like the M&S and the co-op cyber attacks. So there's all the cybersecurity side, and you know, some of the ages of the people who were, I think, arrested yesterday were age 17 and 20. And what people don't realize is that hacking into systems and participating in any games, or if you've been groomed and you end up hacking into systems, that is breaking the Computer Misuse Act, and that can carry a life sentence. So, you know, we think of life sentences in terms of things like murder or other, you know, horrendous crimes, but hacking into systems which you are not meant to be going into, that also can carry a life sentence. So it's really important we start having these conversations. You need to know what your child is doing online, if it's following a trend, if it's being encouraged to do something they shouldn't be doing. And so it's not about fear, as we started this episode with. It's about conversations and, you know, understanding what's going on there. So there is an awful lot, but you know what? We're almost out of time because we can talk at length on this. Anna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been fantastic.
And I'm looking forward to catching up with you again in person. I'm fairly certain we've got a couple of conferences where we're going to meet again and have more in-depth chats. And, you know, if we're going to encourage our listeners, you know, it is just to take that little bit of interest, just listen, keep your ears to the ground. And, you know, ask your friend, you know, go to Anna's website, go and look at the government guidance, go and have a look, you know, listen, because I know that one of the things is sometimes parents think it won't happen to their child, or that's not something I need to concern myself with. And I mean, Rebecca, you know, you're also a parent of this age group. The conversations are so important. They really, really are. They just, anyway, you know what? I hope that everyone has enjoyed listening to this podcast. As usual, if you've got any questions, do reach out to us. I think without further ado, I'm just going to say thank you once more to Anna for joining us. Anna, just tell us one more time where people can contact you. So where can people contact you?
My website, my website is screen-safe.co.uk, or I'm on LinkedIn as my name, or Instagram, Screen Safe Global. I'd love to connect.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
And we'll...
Bye, Anna.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. That was a great conversation. I feel like we could have a whole series just talking about online safety.
100% we could. Yes, it's you know, it's really important to have this conversation alongside the tech journey, because it's really insightful. There's a lot of good in tech and we love tech, but also bringing this other side to it, it's really important. So we hope you enjoyed our podcast with me, Beverly Clarke, and co-host
Rebecca Franks,
and giving you insights and actionable ideas to inspire your own tech journey. And again, a massive thank you to our guest, Anna Sarjantson, and be sure to tune in to our next episode. See you again soon.
bye.